Welcome everybody to Making Friends with Your Afterlife. I'm Henrietta Lang and this is
May I Love.
And what we thought we'd do for the first few minutes is just say hello. So if you'd like to use the Q&A to say your name and where you're coming from, that would be really lovely. And we'll just have a few minutes to give everybody time to arrive in this kind of digital room, if you like, that we're creating today. So, Maya, where are we? Could you locate
Where
us?
are we? Gosh, okay. We're in Wells at the moment, in Henny's room.
Yes, we're not actually in a woodland, are we?
No, we're not in a woodland. Hopefully, I know it looks very realistic.
It looks like we're in a woodland.
Yeah, it's got a nice light coming through here, hasn't it? I like that. Yeah. But we're in Wells and in Somerset. And look, there are a few.
Oh, hello. Hi, Bajinda. Hi, Liz from Copenhagen. Rosie from Cornwall. Antonia in a very rainy Cornwall. Plune from Rotterdam. Hi. Hello, Emma.
Great.
Hello,
Scotland.
Ruth. Oh, gosh, from you guys coming from all over. How lovely. Welcome. It's great to welcome you today. Oh, I need to scroll down. Penny from London and Helen from Wales and Ruth from Bristol. Sarah, studying death and dying, but your degree, fantastic. Carl, Fiona, Rosemary, Sarah, Rachel, Roz. I'm not going to say all the names possibly. Matthew.
Rachel from
Israel.
Great.
I wonder what time it is in Israel.
Yeah, right.
I don't think.
Tell us what time it is in Israel, Rachel.
Yeah, what time is it in Israel? Hi, Polly. Hi. Rachel from Manchester. Did we say hello to Rosemary in Norwich?
It's good seeing the question and answer thing works then.
Yes, it's all working. That's good.
11:30 in Israel.
It's 11:30 in Israel. Okay.
What, in the morning or the evening? In the morning.
In the morning, yeah.
That means, doesn't it? Yeah.
So it's 9:30 here in.
Oh, look, Maura
Somerset.
from Limerick in Ireland.
Hi, Maura. Hi. So yeah, it's kind of after breakfast time, isn't it? Just after the start of daytime, which is kind of quite early to be thinking about death, isn't it?
Yeah, although in some ways
or diet,
quite appropriate in that way that, you know, when you go to sleep every night, sort of almost like a mini death, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, you know, in that dreamy sort of state that we're coming out of, you know.
We're probably not feeling very dreamy right now. We're probably actually been really anxious because we've never done a webinar before. So we've done live events together, haven't we?
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about in a minute. But we've never done a webinar. Well, actually, you've done loads of performing.
I've done gigs online, but that's quite different, actually. I mean, I talk a bit in my gigs, but you know, I'm there singing.
Yeah.
And you know, having to talk about stuff is for me, I find that more exposing.
Do you?
Where for people who aren't singers, singing in front of people is really exposing. But for me, it's the other way around. I'll just sing my way through it and it'll be okay.
Talking of which, if we said hello to everybody, I think we said hello to everybody we can. Thank you so much for letting us know you're here.
Sarah from Wiltshire said we were doing great.
Thanks, Sarah. Welcome everybody. This is really exciting, and I've invited, begged Maya really to come and do this with me to shore me up, but also because she's a wonderful singer and a musician, and she's going to kick us off with a song.
So I'm going to sing a song now that is a Celtic blessing that I have sung at funerals before. Deep peace of the running wave to you, deep peace of the flowing air to you, deep peace of the shining stars to you, deep peace of the quiet earth to you, deep peace of the running wave to you, deep peace of the flowing air to you, Deep peace of the shining stars to you. Deep peace of the quiet earth to you. Deep peace of the running wave to you. Deep peace of the flowing air to you. Deep peace of the shining stars to you. Deep peace of the quiet earth to you.
Oh, thanks, Maya. That was lovely.
Thanks.
So you said it was a Celtic blessing song. Did you want to add anything to that, or?
That's all the information I have.
All the information you have. Okay.
But I don't know if now is the moment to mention the Festival of Death and Dying.
Yes. So we were going to talk about who we are and how come we're doing this.
Yes.
This. Right. Okay.
So I'm just going to say I sang that song at the Festival of Death and Dying, which...
yeah. So basically this anniversary, isn't it? Like 2 years ago, 2018, on this day, you sang that song in Glastonbury Church.
Yeah.
Because we put on a festival of death and dying because we felt like it was something people didn't talk about. And that was caused, and I could see through my work as a therapist that caused a lot of problems. The death taboo was causing us a lot of problems as individuals and as a society. And Maya agreed and agreed to come on and help sort of make it work. And you did an amazing sort of grief tending song circle, didn't you, which you then did the following year as well, and it was very powerful. People really loved it. I really loved it. We basically carried on singing whilst crying, which was really powerful and amazing. With a lot of people in a church, lots of wailing and singing, and it was very beautiful and healing, and people left very connected and ecstatic, actually. So we weren't going to do it this year, so we're really thrilled that the Good Grief Festival is putting something on this year. That's really wonderful. And some of the feedback actually that we got from doing the festivals was that people felt there was no talk of the afterlife. There was talk of death and dying and grief and grieving, but no one talked about what happened afterwards, and it felt like there was an unmet need there. And so reflection, I thought, well, maybe we should have a go. I mean, like, nobody's an expert on the afterlife, because either we go there and can't get reborn and forget, or that's the end of it. And so there's no one ever gets to report back on actually what happens when we cross over. So and so I thought, well, I guess all we can do is make a space to explore ideas around it, and in a way that's quite relieving, because no one's an expert. So we're not experts, but we're up for making a space about it. Have we introduced ourselves enough, do you think, who we are?
We could do a bit more of that.
A bit more of that?
Yeah.
So tell us about you, Maya. What do you do in your life when you're not doing festivals of death and dying?
So I'm a singer. I have a band called Dragonfly that does Celtic folk music with Eastern twists, and I write my own songs and do a solo project as well. And I live on a permaculture small holding, and I'm a gardener, and we teach Taoist practices.
Yeah, you do healing work
as well. Healing work, exactly.
You do a lot of healing work too.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And you make amazing apple juice. We must stick to our timing. So I'm Henry Lang, and I'm a therapist. That's my main sort of body of work. We're also mums, aren't we? And wives and daughters and sisters and that kind of thing. So I wanted to tell you a bit about and I've curated 2 festivals of death and dying in the Wells in Glastonbury and Shepton Mallet area,
which have been incredible.
Oh, well, thank you. They were amazing things to be involved in. So what I wanted to do now is just talk a bit about the layout of the session. So the first half of the session is kind of reflections on the afterlife. So I want to talk a bit about, we're going to reflect and talk on some ideas that I hope will be helpful. And have a break at about, what time is the short break? About 10:15, about 10 past 10, about halfway through. And so we can have a drink or go through whatever you need to do. And then the second half of the session will be a guided journey where I will talk us through a journey to make friends with the afterlife. And then we'll have a few minutes to sort of feedback, and that will be the end of the session, which will finish at 11 o'clock. So I hope that's all clear. Do put questions, if you like, in the Q&A. We will answer what we can. I'm not quite sure about the timing, so if we can go on to the Q&A before the end of the session, we will. But we will have a little moment to reconnect and feedback at the end.
And moderators from the Festival of the Good Grief will be your questions in a question and answer as well.
That's right. Any questions that we can't answer, they will be looking at and checking up on. So if you've got any technical difficulties, they'll handle that.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
are you ready to be
ready for the first question? Yes,
great.
I'm ready for the first question there.
So, what did you learn about the afterlife from doing 2 festivals of death and dying, Henry?
Yeah, well, God, what an incredible privilege it was to do that, because I got to talk to a lot of people about death and dying, and I used to be a research scientist, so I'm really interested in just asking people open questions and seeing what they come back with. And really, what I learned was that most people seem to have a sense of the afterlife. If you ask them, they generally come up with something. They don't say, oh, I've got no idea. Or they might say that at first, and then they'll kind of move in a direction towards something, you know, a dream or a feeling or an experience. And so I began to wonder whether actually everybody holds internally an idea of the afterlife that is theirs, and perhaps it's quite precious and quite tender, and we don't really want to expose it necessarily, but it's intimate, isn't it? But nevertheless, it's there, and it's ours, and it's our natural, authentic arising of almost like a sense of direction of the afterlife. And so I was quite interested in thinking about how that could be developed, and really with the aim of making friends with the afterlife, so that we might carry a sense of what the afterlife is for ourselves as we go through life, and possibly as our loved ones are going to the end of life, if we are holding a sense of where they're going. I think that's comforting. So that's the idea. And one of the things that we did, Maya leads a fantastic choir singing group in Wales that I was part of, and I asked the choir if they would get involved in the festival, and they were totally enthusiastic. It was brilliant. And I also asked them if they'd take part in a Voices project, which actually involved quite a few other people as well from the community, just to reflect on death and dying. But so what I've done is I've got a couple of pieces of 2 people talking about, I extracted from the Voices project we did, Jean and Sue talking about their experiences of the afterlife. And so I thought it might be interesting to listen to those and then reflect. So
great.
Moderators, if you're ready, could we have the audio of Jean and Sue, please?
Well, I'm sure we meet up, and because we say that love is immortal, I think we meet up with the people we have loved and the people who have loved us. And I'm sure he'll be there waiting, you know. It'd be great fun, won't it?
So when I was a counsellor, and I used to counsel for Crew's bereavement care, working with children, I had one young girl of about 11, I think she was, and she lived with her mother and her mother's partner, and her father had died. So her father is like separated from the family. She only saw him on occasions, and of course she wasn't able to attend the funeral or anything like that. So she was quite upset about all of this. And so I went to visit her at home. I think we had about 6 or 7 sessions, and we just did bits of play therapy and bits of work talking about her relationship with her father, which she wasn't really able to talk about with her new stepfather and everything. And she was very, very sad about the whole thing. And then on the last session when I went, after about 5 or 6 sessions, it wasn't going to be the last one, but it became the last session. She was sitting, in a bedroom, and we were talking. And I said, I said, you look really well today. I said, has something nice happened? Are you feeling okay? What is going on for you? And she said, well, she said, Sandra, she says, I was sitting here last night, she said, on my bed, she said, and suddenly, she said, a golden light went past me and went out of the window. She said, and I knew that was my daddy. And I know that she's gone to heaven. And she said, I feel much better now, she said, because I've seen him go to heaven. And this is a 10-year-old little girl whose family had no connections with church, and everything, but she knew that her daddy had gone to heaven, and seeing this golden ball of light go out of the window. And so we just did a drawing about the golden light and what it looked like and all of those things. And she said, I don't need to see you anymore, Sandra.
Oh,
What strikes you about you've heard those before, obviously, haven't you? But
not fully like that, actually. And what really struck me there is the love. The first one where she said, love is immortal. And I really have that feeling of, and it's timeless as well, isn't it? Love, it's beyond time. So if you take time and space out of the equation, then, love is the connection.
Yeah, one of the things that struck, I hadn't taken on board this idea before I started doing the festivals, is that when a person dies, the love for the person carries on. It's actually
exactly
unrelated to whether the person is alive. That the love is like a third object, if you like, created between two people. It still remains even when the person's died.
Yes.
And
and can create a channel of connection then. I said to my granddad before he died, and he was definitely an atheist, didn't think anything happened after he died at all. And I said to him before he died, when you're gone, I'll connect with you through the love in my heart. And he looked at me and said, I couldn't have put that better myself.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, how lovely. yeah.
And it's like that seems to cut through all the kind of what happens, is it real, what do I believe, don't I believe, all that sort of stuff. It's like we all know love, and that's what really moves us, isn't it? I felt like crying when hearing the second one, and it's because of this feeling of love of that little girl with her dad.
So I'm getting the sense that for you the afterlife is about love, that the love is all you need to kind of focus on, really, and that's enough. There aren't any more questions when you sort of sit with the love.
Really,
Oh, that's lovely.
That's really and everything else sort of comes from that. You might have experiences, you might see someone or hear someone or have a light, or the wind moves in the trees at the moment when you think of them, or whatever. But that you can assign meaning to. But absolutely, the love is the thing for me. That I know the love. Do you know what I mean? No one can question that for me.
And I think you brought up a really important point there about that you can assign meaning to. So I've been thinking about this a lot over the past 2 weeks when I've been sort of preparing this talk, and I was going to mention Viktor Frankl. I don't know if any of our audience have come across Viktor Frankl, but he was a survivor of the Nazi camps, and he wrote this book called Man's Search for Meaning. And I guess his life was like an experiment, because everything gets stripped away in the camps. Even your name, you no longer have a name. You're just a number. You have no identity, no role, no relationships, no family. There's absolutely nothing left, except, as he says, in the concentration camp, every circumstance conspires to make the prisoner lose his hold. All the familiar goals in life are snatched away, which strikes me as being very like dying. But what alone remains is, he quote, the last of human freedoms, the ability to choose one's attitude to a given set of circumstances or an issue. this ultimate freedom, recognized by ancient Stoics as well as by modern existentialists, takes on a vivid significance in Frankl's story. So I don't know if that conveys that sense of when everything else is, that's the one thing we absolutely have freedom, don't we, to choose what we feel and what we think. Because actually no one can come in and say to you, oh, you know, that love idea you've got, it's naive. You know, no one has the right to do that. That is your right entitlement, isn't it, to ascribe meaning as you experience it. And I really love that idea. I think it's so empowering and liberating.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Do you have a sense of your own afterlife? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, you know, like most people, I didn't think about it much until sort of a bit later on. So I started confronting the ideas of death and dying. But I was a very depressed young person in my 20s, and I went into analysis. You know, the kind of classic analysis of the person who sits at the far end of the room and hardly says a word. That's not how I work. And I remember her saying, do you think about dying? And I sort of realized that I sort of do, but my vision of dying or death or being out of this life was actually kind of being weightless and floating amongst, having a body of light and floating amongst the stars. And it felt really blissful. And I think she was a bit worried, you know, that was a kind of, you know, suicidal ideation. And but actually for me, I realized sort of, it felt really good. And it was only kind of years later I started to wonder if that was my sense of afterlife. And remind me, we'll come back to that later in the second half of the talk when we talk about the collective unconscious, because it turns out I'm not the only person to have had that dream. but then you know, one could be surprised. So I was with my uncle when he was dying, and I was explaining to him that he was dying because I'd done some workshops and I knew it was really helpful to tell the dying person dying. And so I was saying, yes, you know, you're dying and you've done really great and we're all here and stuff like that. And you know, it was grim. You know, he was a day before death, and you know, my auntie and her family were obviously really anxious and sad, and it was a horrible hospital ward. And I mean, it just couldn't have been grimmer, and tubes and all that kind of thing. But I actually felt this incredible sense of excitement. It was physically in my body, this sense of, oh my God, you're crossing over. And I was like, where the hell is that feeling coming from? It feels, for a moment, I was almost embarrassed, like it was inappropriate to have this feeling. But what came to me was that his mum and my grandmother and his son who died were really excited to see him. Now, I don't have any religious, I don't subscribe to Christianity or any religion, but I was just surprised that that feeling just arrived with such clarity, and there was so much joy suddenly in myself at such a sort of sad time. So
segueing nicely onto the next question, so I imagine that for people with a religious sense of a god or transcendent being, imagining the afterlife is quite straightforward. What about if you're agnostic or atheist?
So that's a really interesting question. So I think my feeling is that I think nature is our teacher in that. And I wanted to just introduce a couple of ideas around nature. So can I check on how we're doing for timing? Are we all right?
We're good.
Can I talk freely without worrying about going over time?
Yeah.
I've got a few minutes. They keep me on task. So there are two things I want to talk about in terms of nature. And one is that we are actually made of stardust. And I know that sounds like a sort of poetic, romantic idea, but it's actually totally anchored in physics. So I've always been really interested in physics. And even when I was a teenager, I found a study of nature and physics really consoling. I was probably a bit of a feminist atheist at the time. But I found the sense of kind of absolute awesome wonder of the universe that physicists were unearthing really kind of uplifting and exciting, and made it feel like the universe was full of possibilities that perhaps we aren't always presented with in daily life. So back at the Big Bang, when the universe started billions and billions of years ago, the first atoms were created, and I think there was helium and one other, and then literally they teamed up with particles of light, photons, to create more variety of atoms, which now make up the periodic table. Do you remember the periodic table?
Yeah.
Which adds up, of which everything in the physical world is constituted.
Great. All the chemical elements of everything.
So our bodies right here and now, this wall, this floor, this computer, everything is constituted from atoms created by exploding stars and the action of light billions of years ago.
And where did the light come from? Or is that an annoying question?
Too technical for
me.
I don't. If there's a physicist, then if there's anyone who knows more about physics here, then let us know. But
I'm just thinking about the stars bit of it, though.
I think it created light as the explosions took place.
Okay, yeah.
It created light, and then the light acted on the primary particle atoms to make more atoms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sort of creation process, but. So I think there's something extraordinary thinking that every single atom in our bodies is billions of years old, created by light and stars back in the beginning of time in the universe. But also that sense of recycling.
Yeah.
I mean, how many other bodies has the atoms in your body been in, or mine?
Yeah,
you know,
right.
like
yeah.
It starts to blur the sense of individuality, doesn't it, in a strange way? You know, kind of opens up a whole host of possibilities, I think, when we come to thinking about the afterlife. And then the second idea I wanted to mention, if anyone's got a question they're burning to ask, do put it in the chat, in the Q&A. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was time. So Albert Einstein, so he was obviously, probably everybody knows who Einstein is.
We all know Einstein.
We all know Einstein. Probably
we've at least heard of him.
Cleverest man of the. And because of Einstein, really, we know about the Big Bang. Probably we have mobile phones because of Einstein's insight into nature. And he wrote to a friend of his, a colleague of his, died, and he wrote to his colleague's wife and said, "Michelle has left this strange world a little before me. This means nothing. People like us who believe in physics know that the distinction between past, present, and future is nothing more than a persistent, stubborn illusion."
Brilliant. Brilliant, which fits in nicely with my thing of love being beyond the time and space scale that we measure things by.
It makes eternal seem utterly possible, doesn't it?
And
also I think it does something, it changes our sense of ending. Because we think only in sequential time does something finish and then start again. But we know that actually that's just the way we perceive our reality. And the truth is that they are past and present. I think of them as layers, past, present, and future, are all kind of stacked on top of each other. And so the idea of a life ending in some absolute way would seem to be sort of inconsistent in some sense, wouldn't it? With the true idea of time.
Yeah, good hearing a good physicist really naming that.
Yeah.
So you were going to play a poem?
Yes.
But do you want to introduce that?
Yeah. So I was this is a poem by Barbara Kingsolver, and I think she's kind of solved the sort of problem in a way that when we talk about physics, it's very dry and conceptual, isn't it? And how do we integrate it into a way of feeling and sensing afterlife? And I think she's done a really beautiful job on it. And this is an extract of an interview actually that my sister did with Barbara Kingsolver. You'll hear her voice halfway through. And the reason why I mentioned that is that, you know, she has absolutely not a religious person whatsoever, and she has been very acutely bereaved, and she particularly referenced this poem as being really helpful to her. So we could play that now, please, moderators.
It's about reaching an age where I feel I can claim my life as my own territory and my spiritual life as my own territory that I can speak about with confidence. So this poem, How to Fly in 10,000 Easy Lessons, is about how in a physical way, in a metaphysical way, and in a biological way, nothing ever dies. Behold your body, and there's water and there's minerals. Think where it's going to go. It's never going to be lost. And this is what I told my children when they were small and asked me what happens when you die. I talked about trees. I talked about soil and minerals and compost, and how when a tree dies, it turns to soil and then another tree grows from it. We don't like to talk about it generally, but it's the same for us. And I think it's a pretty beautiful story. And that's how we fly. We ultimately evaporate, but it's not an easy thing to think about it, especially in a culture that doesn't really like to think about the finite nature of life and of bodies.
Well, I love the idea of me ending up as a leaf and flying into the sky after I die. So I found it very positive.
There you are. There you are.
Good.
How to Fly in 10,000 Easy Lessons. Behold your body as water and mineral worth. The self-same water that soon, from a tree's way of thinking, soon will be lifted through the elevator hearts of a forest, return to the sun in a leaf-eyed gaze, and the rest, all wordless leavings, the perfect bone-white ash of you, white as snowflakes, falling on updrafts toward the unbodied breath of a bird. Behold your elements reassembled as pieces of sky, ascending without regret, for you've been lucky enough, fallen for the last time into a slump, the wrong crowd, love. You've made the best deal. You summited the mountain or you didn't. Anything left undone, you can slip like a cloth bag of marbles into the hands of a child who will be none the wiser. Imagine your joy on rising. Repeat as necessary.
Brilliant.
It's lovely, isn't it?
I love it.
So we're just going to give you a little rest and have just a minute of music so we can just absorb some of that. And then we'll be back in a minute and a half with more reflections. Hello, welcome back to Make Friends with Your Afterlife. It's Henry Lang and Maya Love, and we've been reflecting on ideas of the afterlife, and we're going to jump in with our next question.
So I'm going to ask you about Carl Jung
Yeah.
now.
Mhm.
So you have said to me before that the psychiatrist and mystic Carl Jung was a big inspiration to you for creating the Festivals of Death and Dying.
Yeah.
And this workshop. can you tell me who he was and
Mhm.
what about him did you relate to?
Okay. So Carl Jung was a psychiatrist in the early middle part of the last century. He was originally a student of Freud's, but then they kind of parted ways. And I think I related to him, I think, because he started off as a doctor and he worked with very sick people in mental hospitals. And then he started to do research. And so he came to a very profound and probably quite sort of mystical understanding of the human psyche, really through observing people. And I kind of really related to that because I used to be a research scientist in public health, and the first thing they teach you is what are you observing? So you observe first, and then interpret.
Yeah.
So I kind of really related to him in that way, but I just think his ideas are really beautiful, and what basically this big uncovering is that is the unconscious, that in the unconscious is a wise friend who orders information for us in really helpful ways.
Right.
So is that making sense so far?
Yeah.
I was going to illustrate it with a little exercise.
Can you tell us more about his work on the unconscious?
Yeah.
And how it helps us make friends with the afterlife?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what I'd like you to do for a second is if you think about, so Jung said that our waking consciousness is like our eyesight. So if you think about what you can see in front of you, so I can see, if I look ahead, I can see the screen, I can see a little bit of the window and the bookshelf in front of me. I can't see behind me. I can't actually see Maya properly out of my peripheral vision. I can't see actually what's behind me or on the floor or the ceiling. So there's loads of information I can't actually access. At the moment, the only thing I can hear is my own voice. So as a kind of little tiny mini experiment, if you shut your eyes for a second and then just tune into what else you can hear. So you'll probably notice there are sounds outside the room. And there are sounds inside the room. And you might be able to sense sensations in your body, like your heart beating or an ache or a pain, or you might feel the surface of whatever you're sitting on. You might be aware of the temperature of the air on your skin. So just really wanted to clue us in for a second into the enormous amount of data that actually our senses are taking in all the time. And so what Jung's idea, what he found from observing people, was that all that information because we can't filter it all ourselves, it goes into a kind of back office, like a sorting room, which is our unconscious, which is actually ordering all this information about the universe, people, energies, atmospheres, information that is that we can't process in the moment, but which is stored for us.
Yeah.
And then, but what he also said was there's a whole other dimension to that, which is that in that storehouse of information is not just our own personal recollections, but also we have access to what he called a collective unconscious. So almost like there's a kind of another kind of bowl, if you like, of archetypal images and memories that we all have access to. So I'm going to give you an example of that. So do you remember I talked about, I had a dream about being weightless?
Yeah.
And actually, strangely, just when I was preparing for the talk, I had a dream that I was about to die, and I was this weightless body floating amongst the stars again, which was very nice.
Right.
And then the next night I watched an amazing series called Cosmos, and in it they talked about a guy called Giardino Bruno, who was in the 16th century. He was a monk, and he said if God is infinite, then the universe must be infinite. And ultimately he was burned at the stake for that. Well, because of a very contentious belief.
Yeah.
But he had a dream that he kind of lifted up the veil on the end of the world and became this weightless being floating amongst stars. and he almost had exactly the same dream that I
Right,
did.
okay.
So 500 years later, we're both having the same dream about what's at the end of life, what's beyond the known world. So I thought it was a really amazing illustration of Jung's idea that in the unconscious is also the collective unconscious.
And I imagine that Jung had a lot of experiences of, other people's experiences that confirmed that for him as well. That's where he got that information from. Yeah, so he definitely investigated his own experiences, but also he studied 67,000 dreams, which are the kind of and found the similarities
and kept finding these those patterns, and so he did encourage people to obviously pay attention to their dreams, but it's not the only way of accessing the unconscious. Good. Okay, which is good for us.
Okay, good.
So
just have a little look at the questions here. Wondering if we've sort of incorporated some of this. So how do we discover and take delivery of this inner wisdom?
Right. So have I just said that he basically he observed that there's this kind of ordering, that there's a dreaming self or an unconscious self that organizes all this information in a helpful way for us. It's always assistive. And the sort of most common way it comes forward is in dreams. So every night we have dreams, and our dreaming self packages material for us to. But we can also do it through active imagination, through visualization. Okay. That is an alternative. That's a way of being awake and accessing the unconscious, which is the second part of this talk.
Brilliant.
And we are a little bit behind time, aren't we? So
flowing perfectly, though.
Flowing perfectly, hopefully. So yeah, I'm really sorry, Carl and Sarah, I haven't got back to your questions. I'll try and do that if we've got time. But for now, I'm going to just take a 4.5 minute break, let's say 4 minutes, and play some music, give you a chance to take a pause and a breath, and then we'll come back to do the guided journey, and that should be just about
it also gives you a chance to prepare for the next bit, guided journey. So if you get yourself comfortable, go to the toilet, whatever you need to do, but make sure you've got a pen and paper.
Oh yes.
And turn your phones off, unless you're watching this on your phone, of course.
Pencil and paper, yeah.
Pencil and paper.
Or pen, doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So moderators, can we have the interval music, please, and the slide that goes with that? we're back. This is Henry Lang, and this is Make Friends with Your Afterlife. Maya's going to do the journey and join us in a minute. So I'm hoping you're feeling comfortable. You've been able to shut the door, turn your phone off for a bit, and we will finish at 11 o'clock. So the first thing I'd like you to do is relax into your body. So tuning in to feeling the sofa or the floor or the chair, whatever you're in contact with. And just noticing the sensation of being in contact with the object that you are lying or sitting on. And then tuning into any sensations that you have in the body. Maybe you have an ache or a pain. And just allowing your attention to rest with that ache or pain. Just for a moment. And allowing yourself just to be quiet, to let all the chatter and ideas and thoughts that we might have generated just to settle in your mind, putting down any anxieties or uncertainties. Just for now, we're going to put them to one side. And I'd like you to notice what sounds you can hear. Can you hear the wind? Perhaps you can hear traffic. Perhaps you can hear bird song. And what can you hear a little bit closer to yourself? What's the nearest sound that you can hear? Perhaps the device is humming a little. Perhaps there's a clock ticking. And then bringing your attention into your own body. Can you hear your breath? Can you pick up the faintest sound of breeze or breathing as your breath moves in and out of your body? And if you feel to, you might put your hands on where your body's moving as you breathe. Perhaps your tummy's moving in and out. Perhaps your chest is moving. It can be a nice feeling to put your hands there. And just noticing the movement of the breath, the rise of the chest as you breathe in, the rise of the chest as you breathe out, the rise of the tummy as you breathe in, the rise of the tummy as you breathe out. And just noticing the effortlessness with which you breathe. It doesn't take any thinking or planning or decision making, it just happens. just happens spontaneously by itself. And then seeing if you can tune into your sense of touch. Can you feel the temperature of the air on your skin? Perhaps you can feel the temperature of the air on your hands. Perhaps you can feel the temperature of the air on your face or your neck. So just staying with the physical sensation of being in the body, feeling held and relaxed. The next thing we're going to do, I'm going to ask you to do, is imagine that you're holding an orange. You are holding an orange in your hand. A normal orange that you might eat. Keeping your eyes closed. Imagine that, feel this orange in your hand. Can you see the colour? The bright orange. Can you see the little undulations in the skin that orange skin has? Can you feel the weight of it in your hands? Can you feel the texture of the orange skin? Slightly waxy, smooth surface of the orange. Can you smell this orange? Can you bring to mind that the citrus, the sweet citrus scent of orange as you pay attention to this orange in your hands? Can you recall the taste of orange? Perhaps you can recall the sound of an orange being squeezed for its juice. Okay, so now we've made friends with this orange, I'd like you to put it on the ground and roll it in front of you. So you start to see the orange rolling, and you follow the orange. Follow the rolling orange wherever it wants to go. Until you arrive in a beautiful place in nature. The orange has taken you to a place in nature that feels very beautiful and very comforting for you. Now look around you. What can you see in this beautiful place in nature? Can you see trees? Can you see grass? Are there flowers? Perhaps there's water. Is there some water in the beautiful place where you are? What can you hear? Can you hear the water? Can you hear birds? What sounds are there in this beautiful place the orange has taken you to? And are you standing? Are you sitting? Are you lying? Where is your body in this beautiful place? What can you feel? Do you feel soft moss underneath your body or bare earth? Are you sitting on a tree trunk? Are you standing? Sort of locate your body in this beautiful place. Just trusting that whatever comes to you is the right feeling, the right object. Can you smell anything? Perhaps if you're near water, sometimes bodies of water have an aroma. Can you see the sky? Is the sun shining? Is it the beginning of the day or the end of the day? Can you feel the temperature of the air in this beautiful place where you are? And then I want you to notice if there are people. Become aware of there being people with you where you are. Maybe they're sitting talking, maybe they're active in some way, but you have the feeling that they are your people. They know you, you belong to them. You feel very comfortable around these people. You might be interacting and greeting each other. You might just be observing them. But take a moment to have this sense of being among people who care for you and who know you, perhaps love you in this beautiful place where you are. Have a sense of being accompanied. You are not alone. Enjoy observing your tribe, your people, as they do whatever they're doing. And then you notice a little bit beyond where you are, you can see a fire flickering. You begin to walk towards this fire through the beautiful place where you are, past the people, until you find a cave, a nice open cave with a fire burning in it. There is someone waiting for you by the fire. A good, wise friend is waiting for you by the fire. They see you coming, and their face erupts in a beam of joy that you have arrived. And you too feel really pleased to see them. There's a mutual love, an instant recognition, and joy at being united at this encounter. They invite you to sit down beside them by the fire. Allow yourself to arrive on the floor of the cave by the fire with your beautiful friend next to you. Perhaps you're feeling intrigued, perhaps you're feeling excited, but you feel very, very safe. And as you study the face of your friend across the fire, you know this face. And as you look into those eyes, you know those eyes, and they know you really well. And those eyes look at you with absolute acceptance and joy and love. And your wise friend reaches for a box, a beautiful crafted box, which they hand to you. You take the box, admiring the beauty with which it's been created. Perhaps it's wooden, perhaps it's crystal, it could be made of any material. But to you, it is the most exquisite box. You look at your friend as if, what do I do now? And they say, go on, open it. So you open the box. And she says, in it, or they say, in it is a gift for you. A gift of your afterlife for you to enjoy. So you open the box and reach in and see what you find there. What is your gift of the afterlife? Perhaps an object comes to mind. Perhaps a face, perhaps a landscape. Trust what comes to you. Whatever you have brought forward, whatever gift there is for you is yours to claim. And spend a moment or two with your gift. Just resting your attention on the gift of your afterlife, of the gift of this insight into your afterlife. What you have been gifted is insight. If it's a landscape or a place, have a good look around. If it's an object, sit with it, turn it over, have a good look at it. Spend a few moments with your gift, enjoying it, exploring it, being curious, allowing it to speak to you. Just enjoying your insight for a few more moments. And so now it's time to say goodbye to your wise friend and take your leave. So you're taking your insight, putting it back in the beautiful box, shutting the lid. And you look to your friend as if to say, what do I do with it? And they say, it's yours now. You can keep it. Take it back with you. You stare into each other's eyes for one more moment. So pleased to have had this time together, this moment. Knowing that you can come back any time and see this friend again. And you take your leave, tucking the box under your arm. And there's the orange outside the cave. And it starts to roll. And you follow it as it rolls. And it rolls back to where you are now. To this room, to this moment. This Friday morning. So coming back into your body, wriggling your hands and toes perhaps, having a little wiggle in your body, taking a breath, opening your eyes, and reaching, when you're ready, before you do too much thinking, I invite you to draw. I'm going to leave a few minutes just to sketch or draw or make notes of anything that came to you during your journey. So I'm just going to be quiet and allow you to get on with your drawing, remembering not to edit yourself or second guess. Just let the image or the words come out of your hand onto the paper. So just letting your hand flow with any images or words. It's just like a sketch or a record of your insight. And if we think of this time as a sort of beginning perhaps, or a stage in our relationship with the afterlife, then this journey or this drawing becomes a sort of record of a place we've got to, which might lead us on to another place. Very often what the unconscious offers us is very multi-layered. One of the things that Jung found was there may be an immediate meaning, but if we allow ourselves to sit with something, maybe leave the object somewhere where you can see it, you might find over the days or weeks that there are other insights into the image, more insights that come to you about your relationship with the afterlife, with your more development of your insight. So please continue to draw if you're still drawing. I'm going to invite everybody to ask questions via the Q&A. So in fact, I'm sorry, not ask questions. What I was going to invite you all to do was tell me something, or tell us, or share whatever you'd like about what you're going to take away from the session or the visualization. It'd be really lovely just to hear from you all before we finish and have a bit of interaction. So we're going to do that, and then Maya will sing a song, and then we'll close. But before that, I'd love to hear anything you want to share about what you've got from today, or what insights came to you. So if you're happy to put those in the Q&A, that'd be lovely. While we're waiting for those to come up. Oh, hang on, I'm on the wrong place sometimes. Yeah, I know. I will try and open the questions if I can, but I just want to make sure. Oh, Fiona, I will take away the poem "How to Fly" and I will learn it. Lovely, great. I'm really glad that spoke to you, Fiona. That's beautiful. Yeah, so we Melanie. Oh, in the visualization, I got upset when I went to leave my friend in the cave. I felt like I need to go back there a lot more. Yeah, sounds like there was a real connection, a union there. So that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I'd really encourage you to go back there and talk some more. More a limerick. I felt such a connection between this world and my afterworld. Oh, well, that's great. Susie, I enjoyed the poem. Can you say more about the use of music and song in grief work? Yeah, we might be able to come back to that. Carl, it's going to create a box to hold the memories of a life well lived. Beautiful. And Rosie, so wonderful to be taken back to my sacred cave and meet again with my guardian. Lovely to be in the woods to meet my friend Jane, who recently died, and to be able to hug her, as I could not before she died during COVID. She seemed well and happy and at peace. Oh, that's beautiful. That's bringing tears to my eyes, Rosie. How lovely that you could see your friend again. And Rachel, my gift is a large diamond that shone healing light. It would be interesting to know what other people's gifts were. I wonder if there were similar ones. Yeah, that's really interesting. A diamond. That really speaks a lot, doesn't it? Because it's got all the facets and it's very precious and it's ancient. Suggests there's a lot there to work with as an object. And yeah, it'd be really interesting to know if there were others who'd had similar. Oh, Plume, sorry if I've pronounced your name wrong, also got a big crystal, I think. Where have we gone? Yeah, big bright crystal. And Ruth had a really strong image of my ancestors watching me from afar. Like a very close relative who died when I was a child was sat by the fire, and I felt her hand in mine. Oh, she gave me a beautifully carved wooden box, and inside was an acorn. I have a lot to ponder on. Ah, the acorn. You might be also interested in you can Google online symbolism of things, and sometimes you get a bit of insight as well. Symbolism of acorn or crystal or whatever. I had no physical gift, says Emma, just a sense of homecoming and being with my loved ones again. Antonia says, I had a strong image of my female ancestors, all so happy to be together and so happy to see me. It felt so wonderful and safe to be with them. My gift was that place that I have visualized with my ancestors, the place that is mine to visit whenever I like. Fiona says her gift was a blanket full of stars. It must have been made of the night sky. Oh, what a lovely image. So the Q&A is slightly odd. We kind of move up and down it. That, Shannon says, that is amazing. Mine was a diamond shining, healing coloured light. And the friend I was in the cave with was called Rachel. Sarah got a bell. That's really interesting, a bell. Yes, that'd be really worth reflecting on what associations you have with bells, what it brings to mind. I have had visitation dreams from my dad. It's been some months since my last one, and I've been wanting to see him, says Chelsea. Virginia says, my gift was a heart that clicked into my heart, and I felt whole and bigger than my physical self. The person in my cave was my ancestors rolled into one. How lovely. Rosie says, plant an acorn and grow a tree. Ruth says she'd love to do that. And she said, Ruth also says, my gift was my father's camera. How intriguing. Oh, you know, it's one of the things I love about the unconscious. It's so surprising and delightful. It's never predictable. It's always full of, surprises, and very individual for each person. Okay, so I think that's most of them. Thank you so much. Oh, sorry, Chelsea says, I met my dad there. Inside the box he gave me was a brass key and a bottle with a message in it. I felt the key was linked to the message in the bottle. I felt the rush of love and warmth from my dad. He said to me that I was home. Oh, that is beautiful. Oh.
Someone else said, was anyone else crying all the way through it?
Oh, sorry, I missed that.
Yeah.
Oh, Emma, was anyone else crying through most of it? Yeah, I wondered, we've got time, I think, to sort of ask what emotions people felt. It'd be good to know. It sounds like a lot of you felt a lot of love and joy, but it would also be very normal to feel some grief or sadness or loss around that too. You know, all feelings absolutely encouraged. And Melanie said I was crying a lot, and Shannon too, and Virginia. Oh, bless your hearts. Well, that's great. Crying means stuff is moving, doesn't it?
Definitely.
The energy is moving inside. So if that's all the feedback, thank you so much, everybody. That was really beautiful to hear from you and to hear your thoughts and your feelings and your experiences. We have probably got about a couple of minutes to answer questions. Should we have because we have had questions that we haven't been able to answer till now. So, question from Chelsea. I believe love is immortal and the spirit is forever eternal. Do you believe in spiritualism and receiving messages from spirit? I think it's entirely, depends on language, doesn't it? I mean, the unconscious could also is interchangeable with spirit. I think we probably all experienced receiving something, didn't we? A message or a gift from a benevolent source. And I think, you know, really want to encourage everybody to own their own concept of that, their own language for that. As you know, I talked about earlier, Viktor Frankl said, we get to choose how we think about things, what names and attitudes we bring to our experience. So yeah, just encouraging you to sort of trust your own sense of that. Absolutely.
It's almost about the role of music.
Oh yes, do you want to talk about the role of...
come in
Yes.
to the screen a bit more again?
Yes, why don't you rejoin us a bit?
So what else? I can't remember what the exact question was, but about the role of music.
A question about music and song in grief work.
Okay.
Fiona was interested in.
My understanding is that in a lot of different cultures, people are professional keeners, so professional mourners. So where, you know, they're hired to either go to where the body is laid out to rest, or that they're in the funeral or at the beginning of a funeral procession. We used to do it in England even. And they will, you know, either sort of beat their chests and wail and make the sounds of grief to sort of encourage the grieving of everyone else who's there, or to sing songs that are specifically songs to bring forth the emotion of grief, of joy and love, of the connection with the person who's died, and also to soothe and comfort. So you know, this was very much the sort of songs that I brought to the workshop last year particularly.
You're going to sing one for us now, aren't you?
And I am going to sing one for you now.
Yeah.
So shall I go into doing that now? I think
Yes, well, probably we need to, I think, say goodbye to everybody.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for coming. What an honour to share this journey with you. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. It's been lovely. Thank you, Henry. It's been lovely to be doing this with you today.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Good Grief. And the last few minutes, Maya's gonna sing, and then that will be goodbye.
So I'm going to sing a song now that is from, it's in Zulu. It's from the Zulu people, and it's a farewell song, and it means we shall meet again in heaven or in the sky. And Zulu actually means sky people, so they believe that they come from the sky. So
now we know what we know about Stardust.
Exactly.
Maybe that's not such a
maybe they've tuned into something there. Yeah. Exactly. So this is a song from the Zulu people. It's actually a 4-part song, but obviously I'm one person, so I'm just going to sing one of the voices. Noyana, 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 Niti, Noyana, Noyana, Pezulu, Noyana, 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 Niti, Noyana, Noyana, Pezulu, Noyana, 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 Niti, Noyana, Noyana, Pezulu. There we are.
We did it.
We did it.
Yeah.
Thanks,
And on time.
everybody.
Yeah.